What do you think MaNa comes out with build-wise then, ZG? Do you think he starts off simple with just some Stargate stuff, or do we mix it up right from the start?
I think we mix it up at the start, and then later down the line, perhaps he brings out the Void Rays. I guess not on Beckett. So the other map that I was in, which I didn't actually see.
Yeah.
The other one. Again, we're not bringing out the specifics on math or maps, but we know vaguely what's going on. Anyways, it's something that I think you just kind of have to do as a Protoss. You have essentially 3 maps to play, and a very strong build on a variety of maps, not just Romanicide, can be the Void Rays. But MaNa is just not prone to only ever doing it and perfecting a particular style, especially a very defensive one. I just gotta predict that he's gonna have Resident Enclaves as a build, or a DT build even in his back pocket. So that's what I think is gonna happen on Oxide. What about you, Wardy? Pressure's on me, man.
Yeah. I just thought I was like putting the pressure on you, actually, ZG. I didn't really want to answer the question. It's I actually think he's gonna mix up on this first game, like Twilight, something Twilighty. I don't know if that's necessarily gonna mean Blaze or like Dark Shrine. Maybe even something really crazy. The other thing I could see him doing is maybe playing Stargate, but playing that kind of triple Oracle. Which I know we've talked about it day once already, and the idea of Queen Walks against it and stuff, but I could see, I know that's something that MaNa has been somewhat fond of doing every now and again, although he's definitely more of a Void Ray player overall. Yeah, overall, I'm definitely with you. I feel like maybe we don't see double Stargate, and there's a Twilight.
There you go. It was already chronoing out a Stalker, which is about to be revealed to Reynor, so that's already a bit different. We usually see the Adept. The Adept gets scouting, and then it can be paired up with a second Adept as well, so you can get a little bit of harassment. The Stalker, not meant to go across the map, although it has happened, I guess, over in the Taiwanese region. So already a little bit of a tell, perhaps, that Reynor needs to be on guard. It's like the smallest of, and it could be a fake as well. Like, this could be intentionally trying to make him worry. But it is MaNa. Twilight Council as the first game is not at all out of the ordinary, and it will be Resident Enclaves.
Yep, Glaives it's going to be. I don't mind just starting off with Glaives straight up. Nothing too weird, pretty standard stuff to get things underway. But also not the Stargate, so it is a little bit more aggressive. And I kind of also just like the idea of bringing the fight to Reynor that little bit. I think there's actually something to be said about that, where sometimes people are afraid to bring the fight to Reynor, and for good reason. He can scout things very well, he can respond very well. But sometimes I think being the aggressor can sometimes throw Reynor off that little bit, and just take him out of his comfort zone. Like, he thinks he's the best, right? He doesn't think he can be beaten, so then someone's like, actually, I'm comfortable coming to your side of the map and trying to fight you. Sometimes I feel like that's got a bit of a statement to make as well.
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Reynor thinks he's cool until he gets punched. That's what I'm learning. It is true, though. Like, can be so intimidating against guys like Reynor and Cyril in the Zerg department, and be like, well, why even try to do something early on? Let's just hope he doesn't kill me first. But MaNa's never been afraid. Back when he actually was really slumping, to be honest, when he really wasn't really even on the map as a Protoss European player, I don't think he was ever afraid. Never gonna call him afraid. So in this case, the nice thing about Resident Enclaves, you don't have to commit. You can just say, like, look, you need to take this seriously, and then I am gonna still play out this really great macro game behind it, because that's where MaNa, I think, has really become better. He can do the aggressive thing as well as the macro thing, which I think was missing, prior to, I guess, like his Austin performance back in the day. So I am hoping that that's the intention here. I don't know if he's going to get a lot of damage done. Reynor doesn't think so. Queen's on job.
It's cool to see this 3-gate version of the Glaives come back, right? Without the robo and stuff, just much less pressure focused. Just kind of like an opening into a third base, rather than a timing that's designed to really deal damage and needs to deal some kind of damage. This used to be kind of like one of the big norm builds, right? And it just kind of fell away to the 4-gate Adepts and all of that. The Adepts get in, they're going to force a drone pool, get a few drones. I mean, not bad, really. It's adding up as damage is being done.
Lots of Lings going down, a Roach almost 2. Does get a little bit more in the Ling fire, I suppose, but also on top of the drones. He starts focus firing, takes down 8, loses the focus fire. Maybe could have gotten 9 or 10, but the Queen took the brunt of the endgame damage there. And that's 8 drones, 23 Lings, and a Roach. in exchange for the 9 Adepts, which does put about even, because the Adepts were more gas. But then you think about the economical hit to the Zerg over the army hit. I mean, interesting as an opener.
Yeah, it definitely sets the stage for something. It sets the stage where MaNa's had a strong opening, right? Where it's not just Reynor's defended, and now he's going to get the chance to drone up and overwhelm. It's not the case at all. Drone counts are even here. Armies are looking reasonable. MaNa's playing the Disruptor, which in this case, maybe not necessary, simply for the fact those are typically more of a defensive thing. He doesn't really need a defense here, but that's fine. Like, you can use them aggressively as well. Just maybe didn't need to get them out so fast. And now +1 and Blink on the way as the next step of this too.
Disruptors, which I really love seeing. It's going to be a fun game as Reynor sets up for roaches and an infestation pit. The Observer crawling around, floating around, whatever it does. It's going to see the roaches, see the roach warren, but the infestation pit kind of tucked in the main base. Is it going to dive? Is it going to dive? There's 4 sentries that could also hallucinate if it doesn't.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, obviously information is key, right? And but you're in for that information to be found a little bit, but not going to see it so far.
Yeah, hallucinations are on the way.
Yeah.
Definitely safer to keep that Observer, 75 gas, right? That's nice and safe on the fronts. Hallucinations can be caught. It is going to be that quick hive, which I feel like we're just seeing more and more. And MaNa, you going to do anything about it? He's already building a Warp Prism. I think his intention was to already do something, and now he's going to be hopefully hitting before any of that hive technology is done, which it almost surely will if he pushes right here, right now.
Yeah, let's see what happens as he comes on forward. Those 2 Disruptors are so critical in this push, because they can make or break it. If they hit nothing at all, then maybe Reynor can just jump on top of this and clean up. That's where the sentries will come in as the secondary backup, drop those force fields and escape away. If they hit well, I mean, this push will continue forward even as we go on through. A couple of Adepts in that bottom right already shading, and a couple of force fields to try and catch some queens. Extra Stalkers warping in. Roaches are going to counterattack at the same time, so this is not going to be a simple situation. Disruptors again a lot to do at the front lines, and MaNa having to defend at home. Those Adepts do get a few shots off, but none of them going to transfer into real kills just yet. And the Stalkers warping in back at home as well takes the pressure away from Reynor on the front, and that is just massive.
Decent enough force fields, but that's it, especially as most of the sentries died. And now the Lings and Roaches all coming together to push that back. No Disruptor shots to save the day or even help the retreat. Fortunately, they are Blink Stalkers, so most of them should be able to retreat. I think, there you go. There you go, up on the high ground. That looked like a really promising push, but with the Roaches getting in there, with MaNa not able really to set up shop and just kind of throw Disruptor after Disruptor, that actually turned around on him. Using 11 probes, knowing that Reynor might not have a 4th base, okay, great, does still have a hive and is already on his way to Vipers. Suddenly you don't feel so hot about the Disruptors. They're going to be abducted, they're going to be canceled, and then you got a late game Zerg to deal with.
Yeah, no, it was, it should have been good, but the counterattack just made it that much worse. And counterattacking again, Reynor just making this game all about him, really, right? Even though MaNa's got the larger army on the map and stuff, it's these counterattacks that are getting the most done in the game. And okay, he cancelled up the left side, but Reynor just said calm and steady, just going to take the bottom right instead. His left side base gets cancelled once more, but Reynor's army's improving. He's not on a massive work count. Does he need to be just yet? I don't think so. I think he's fine to sit where he's at. Although it is something to think about if this does go on a little longer, if he never gets those drones added in. Good force fields again, and a couple layers of force fields in case the bars had already come down. MaNa's just going to back out. Happy to keep a base cancelled, but he's only on 3 bases himself. Needs to start thinking about the future, and especially with Lurkers on the way, exactly what that's going to look like and how he's going to be able to take those fights.
He must know that Lurkers are going to be on the way. I think he absolutely knows about that. What I'm questioning a little is if he knows about the bottom right base. The Adepts shaded past the drone that was making it, and I'm not sure MaNa would have really been paying attention to that because there's so many other things to be paying attention to. So that makes me a little worried that he might be overestimating his position, or overestimating how aggressive Reynor could be when Reynor's actually fairly comfy waiting for his Lurkers. That's definitely the right option. So just something to note. The game will continue on. MaNa will get his own 4th base, but Warp Prism maybe could have had a couple of Zealots going over to the right side. Instead, it tried to Disruptor drop in the main, didn't do anything. And we're back to just kind of, big armies headbutting each other. And those big armies are getting better for Reynor with Abducts and Lurkers with upgrades.
Ling's gonna get that cancel, and they will go down, but obviously worth getting the cancel, slowing it down. They get the probe too, so it really delays the rebuild on this top left-hand side. It just sort of feels as though right now we're kind of waiting for MaNa just to run into trouble with those lurkers. I know he's kind of added on, a couple of immortals. He's got a couple disruptors. It's only 5 lurkers right now, so it's not super crazy. I love what Reynor's doing, just counter-attacking again, gonna try and pull the army apart. Decent defense to start from MaNa. That Stalker getting in the wall off and blocking played a big role in keeping this off. Now the top left base in some trouble, but the disruptor shots, I'm gonna say both hit big, but the second one abducted last second, and another one goes down too. And there is just no answer to these fighters more so than anything apart from hoping your Stalker blink on top of them, but that's a pretty big hit.
MaNa does have a pretty feisty army. Like, it was chasing the roaches for so long, and then they go out single file from the natural. That was the problem. Because if all of these Stalkers, you had 40 Stalkers, still does. If all 40 Stalkers were able to respond when the disruptor shots got that one hit and then almost a second one, actually I would be a little afraid for Reynor, because outside of the Lurker Viper combination, which isn't much, as you pointed out, he wasn't a lot of roaches. And these Stalkers, they do have +2. There's just a supreme number of them, but the Observer, a little out of position, doesn't see the left side Lurkers. Makes it a bit awkward, but MaNa's going to take his mobility, continue running with it, but is actually going to work out. He runs into the Ling Hydra composition. He gets bloody clouded as well. All the Immortals getting their shields popped. The Warp Prism not going to be able to warp in thanks to the Abduct, and MaNa just gets completely held. Again, it looked promising on this side of the map at the start, and then just tumbled into maybe a game end in favor of Reynor.
If he actually finds those lurkers on the left side with the Observer initially, what difference does that make? Because then those lurkers just go down, and while they were just, while they kind of got shut down pretty quickly anyway, the few shots they get hurt, and then, obviously then the rest of the army is able to combo with it, and wow, I mean, this actually looked like so much potential for MaNa, and all of a sudden, it's just not again. Now, a few lurkers are up, and they're starting to hold the lines here. The Hydra's obviously going to fly. Blind Cloud as the Stalkers blink forward. I mean, the Blind Cloud is just so good. Once the Stalkers have already blinked, forces them back again. They just take 3 damage while they derp around in that area. And that's a big part of these fights going the way. Because now we're abducting Stalkers for it. I don't know if that's quite necessary. But I guess use that Viper energy while you can, because you're not going to need it for a few moments. You will get a chance to recharge. I guess why not? Reynor definitely cutting it close, right? A couple of real opportunities for MaNa that Reynor kind of clutched out both times that it got really troublesome.
If Reynor didn't have that one run by, I will stand again that the Stalkers responded as fast as they should have, it would have been different. Or if MaNa had realized that he could have just jumped on those lurkers first and then take a calmer approach through the middle. There's a lot of what-ifs here, but at the end of the day, just look at the supply, and Reynor is doubling it, so MaNa taps out. But that was a little piece of what was happening in the previous series. The reason that MaNa has taken series recently against Reynor was still shown there every now and again, but ultimately Reynor, as you said, clutching through kind of what he does in these DreamHacks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of his play, right? It's why he's the champ, because he's just clutching and amazing them situations. And something that he was missing back in, I want to say it was like 2019 a little bit, 2018, 2019, when he was on the rise. He was missing kind of like the clutch factor that Serral definitely had a lot of. And it really feels like he found that. And it's one of the big reasons he found a lot of success, I think, lately. And that was just a perfect example of it, right? Like, it looks like a bad fight. His lurkers are running in a few hides, but there's so many Stalkers. But the blinding clouds buy you those few extra seconds that you need. They make such a critical difference. And it's not every day you need to go dropping blinding clouds on top of Stalkers as well. So it's not like a super common occurrence either. Yeah, very fun little situation there as MaNa. So many opportunities. It's got to be scary for Reynor going into game 2, because he, being as good as he is, knows how close that game got at times. And I think even Reynor would be hard-pressed to kind of convince us that, hey, this was, completely under control from start to finish.
Right. I don't think he could convince us of that. I mean, I think he might try, though, just imagining a Reynor interview.
Yeah,
He's like, no, I had it.
It's like, oh, it's fine. I knew the Stalker's going to blink forward aggressively. I had the blind cloud saved up exactly for this reason. That disrupt I, abducted last second. I was just giving MaNa some hope to break him inside a little bit,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I do agree. I think Reynor has to admit that there was a couple of scary times. Had there been a little bit more of a push, should there been some better force fields, that second disruptor shot, like tons of tiny things. But we are going into game 2 on Beckett, which is always an interesting map to appear in any series. In the top right, playing for Team Clash, he is Reynor.
That intro just it goes on for like 10 does too many. Bottom left hand side, our blue Protoss player is MaNa.
They've trolled us before by bringing on K-pop. And I'm just waiting for him to troll us with an intro that just keeps
never
going.
ends. It just goes duh, 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 duh.
Oh, we've given them the idea. Oh, no.
At least now we can claim it's ours, right?
Yeah, we can just call them copycats.
That will definitely not do it. Brilliant. Good job,
Nailed it.
Sophie.
Yeah. Oh, us sillies. Anyway.
Welcome
Beckett.
to Game 2.
Yeah, well, Kat's asked, he's surprised to see Beckett from MaNa. I was not at all. What are your opinions for that matter?
Beckett does make it into PvZs a lot of the time, especially depending on what the Zerg wants to veto, because say you don't want to play and this is like totally a thing as well, where you just don't want to play against like later game Stargate stuff. You can see vetoes on the larger maps like a Romanticide and so on and all of that. You can play if you're going to end up playing basically like a smaller map series, I feel like Beckett makes it in more than like Blackburn does, for example, for PvZ. I think it's a reasonable map. Obviously, I think Swarm hosts have their strength on this map if that's the style you want to play as Reynor, because of all those ledges, the caverns, the spaces you can fly Locust over that units can't run on. So that's definitely a strength. And we've seen the power of Lurkers on this map in the past as well, where the map is just naturally choked up, right? There's not really a lot of open space. The Lurkers are really able to position well, and they can really counterattack well too. You take one bad fight and the Lurkers get to go across the map, well, they're going to be on top of your base and in position before you can do anything about it. So yeah, early game is sometimes a bit weird, right? Sometimes the early adepts and stuff can do something because they get across so quickly, but I think if you get mid-late game, I actually don't think you mind it as Zerg, and I think it's playable as Protoss too, because you do have 4 bases that are pretty nice to take as well. So yeah, honestly, I think for PvZ, it's not the perfect map, but it ain't a bad map.
As much as we make fun of it because of its extremely short rush distance, there were, measures taken by the map maker to not make it just like Unlock the Caverns. It's got all the things that Legacy of the Void would expect, these chokes to help defensively, so that, 4 bases is very possible. What's really, I think Reynor wanted to screw up MaNa, but I'm wondering if MaNa's been really screwed up yet, is the Drone Scout. If there was going to be something cheeky in the early game, anything with the Twilight Council, basically, it's kind of ruined with this drone, because you don't really want to have your adepts chase it and then lose out on scouting.
Yep.
And in general, just having to keep mind of chasing it. So, that would have interrupted the plan, but MaNa did go for a Stargate. So now it's just seeing what pops out of the Stargate. Free scouting, of course. Excellent for Reynor, as he also dodges away from these offensive adepts. But my original point was that maybe MaNa can live with this, He's like, okay, cheeky drone, all right, and then move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's still an investment early from Reynor, right? You send a drone out early. It has an effect on your economy, that little bit. At the end of the day, Stargate ain't also bad. Even on Beckett, I don't think it's that bad. Maybe even good to have that Oracle up and that defense up in certain scenarios too, so maybe also take some stuff out of the way for Reynor. This actually map is actually really good for Tempest, because, okay, it's very short for counterattacks, but there's a ton of airspace to the left of the main, and that's also on top of the third. So you put one Tempest there, and it's got 2 mineral lines it has easy access to, and then you just put the second Tempest on the right side behind the natural, and you can do a load of damage with this. So it's absolutely I like it. It's actually a good map for this build.
It was the first map I saw it on from Max Packs. So I think it was I don't know what other commentator was like, oh, I don't know about this map for it. I was like, oh, no, that's actually where I thought it was used.
I think it was mostly used on 2K atmospheres, but no, Beckett's definitely the secondary, I think.
No, exactly. There was another map where it's also heavily used, but I had seen it first on Beckett, and I was like, oh, I get why this works. Okay, I see. And so we see it again here. MaNa's going to be very abusive with these Tempests. We've seen this work out brilliantly. Laser actually really struggled with it when it came out, I guess last season, I believe.
Yep.
Or maybe even longer ago. But anyways.
Laser max packs?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, last season playoffs.
Yeah, he really struggled. But then its novelty, I think, kind of wore off a little bit, and we're not getting any like game over, dude type of situations. But it is nonetheless very annoying. It is excellent harassment.
So funky that obviously one Tempest finished and then two more just now start. Reynor's doing the exact thing you don't want to be up against.
Yeah, right.
Like this Ling Roach attack, especially when you built one Void into the Tempest and then there's only one Tempest here right away too. Like I'm saying, I feel like that's a little bit weird. Usually you're kind of expecting the double Tempest right now. So even that don't feel too hot. Now the Tempest might be able to kite back and slowly pick away at all of this. It's always that question of how quickly do you then deal with all of the units that are there to kill you? Because obviously if it takes you forever to clean those all up, then it doesn't really matter that the Tempest survive and everything dies because you've lost so much else. In this case, Reynor's pretty quick to back away, cancels the third and just says, yeah, I want to get out of here. The big issue for Reynor is this means his lair is very delayed, and so you can't get a Spire very quickly. Without a fast Spire, you're not able to really deal with these Tempests in any sort of good way. So then you kind of need a pressure to try and keep the Tempests away from your base, because if they get in position, they're going to be an annoyance pretty much throughout the rest of the game. But not the rest of the game, but until the Spire's up, and that's a long way away from now.
Long way, right. It's kind of reminiscent of, I believe, another Max Pack series, and I think it was against Reynor. Maybe it was Laser, I don't remember. But he Queen walked, and then he did so much damage that it really was game over. But we kind of questioned it as commentators, like, well, there's like 7 Tempests, like, can something be done? No, was the eventual answer. But in this game, MaNa took a cancel, and is going to take a second one by the looks of things, and that is bad. But I was going to say one cancel really isn't that bad. If the Tempest can actually get in position, a second cancel with it being so far done, I think that is truly painful. It was already a wound. Now you've just like ripped that wound open. Now the Tempests have got to do a lot.
Yeah, these Tempests need to be more than just a bandage on the wound. They need to go and stab the other guy back for sure. Because it is just, I mean, yeah, you've got no third base, so your follow-up or whatever else you want to do from here is delayed because you just need those 5th and 6th gases typically. But I don't want to say it's impossible. Reynor opted for the Hydra Gen 2, so he's going to try Hydras to fight this, which really feels as though the Tempests are still going to have a lot of potential, especially considering there's 4 of them. I guess the Hydra is obviously better against the Voids, and that might be the thought process here that he wants to prepare for the Void Rays more than the Tempests. But again, with 4 of those Tempests up, it's going to be a major annoyance. You can already see they're just slashing their way through Queens. They are doing some serious damage here.
Absolutely. They take down drones fairly quickly, even though they themselves don't have fast attacks. One shot. So it really builds up quick, and you have to divert so much attention and units to it as well that it can become a game of like, well, I'll attack you, so you bring your Tempest back, and they'll be like, no, I'll attack you with my Tempest, so you bring your units back. It is going to be this time Reynor attacking again, forces the recall, but without the recall, the shield batters are finishing, the Void Rays were there. Well, maybe don't tackle the Hydras by yourself. And reinforcements were going to be on the way, so MaNa handles that fairly well and might even get back on the map with these Void Rays now that they have Flux Veins. Yeah,
they are really, really quick. Robobay on the way up, so Reynor's on a bit of a timer. It feels like he's going to stick on this composition and just somewhat try. Okay, he's going to drop an infestation bit, so he's not going to be completely stuck here. He'll be stuck here for a little while because there's also no point in drawing until that 4th base is done. So he's kind of stuck on Hydras for a little bit. Once the Robobay comes out, that's when the Hydras are going to suck a lot more and they won't be able to do as much. But by then he might have Hive on the way, so he will have an answer to those disruptors and so on. So it's a cool game. They're both kind of responding to the expectations of the other, and it's working well, as that's just going to be a dead lair. Nothing you can do about that. No vision around the top side, and he loses track of the Void Rays. And it's immediately when Reynor stops being aggressive, right? All of a sudden, Reynor stops being aggressive, and the next thing you know, MaNa's just found a position with those Void Rays, and the aggression was just telling him all the time where those Voids are at. You let that up, and all of a sudden, MaNa's taking advantage of it.
I think when, if MaNa were to win this game, right, Reynor's going to look back at that little tiny Queen walk there. It didn't last very long, but it was a dedication, and kind of be like, you know what, maybe not. Maybe not again.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the time to do it for sure. Tempests are just so scary to push into because it takes you so long to push into them. And yeah, and like you say, it's such an investment. So the stuff slowed down. This is nice, getting 2 voids for free. That's obviously a mistake from MaNa. I mean, what do you do as Reynor though? The problem is you've got creep in the middle, but not down the right, so you can't get on top of the 4th base. So you're kind of left pushing around this kind of area. Now carriers are on the way up, so we really are getting to that stage where Hydras are just not going to be good enough. Time's definitely running out for Reynor, it feels like.
+2 carriers are no joke. Also having the disruptors and the Vipers have been on pause for a while. He did replace his lair, but even though his infestation pit was totally fine, not yet gone up to that hive. So a couple things going to be a problem. One Tempest does go down, just reach a little too far forward. A second one as well as MaNa stops microing. Doesn't seem to care about his Tempest, which have done great things for him. The Void Rays now tackle Hydras if they're really not supposed to. Here come the carriers. Maybe that was a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe you should keep track of those Tempests a little bit more, right? Like not let the Void Rays do the job. This is actually still a scary army. And the Disruptor is going to get 1 good hit. The second one isn't going to get shots. It's still scary for MaNa, and maybe trying to tackle this and save his 4th base wasn't the right call.
I think there's just no need for the Disruptors to die necessarily. Like, the first hit was good, but then why were they still so far forward? It wasn't like it was happening as that Disruptor shot was going off. It was a follow-up, and having your Disruptor count reset removes one of the big threats you have against the Hydras that forces them to pull back and wastes a bunch of time. Reynor dives for the Disruptor. That time it does not work out, and he eats the shot in full. Dead Scent on his Hydralisk, so that hurts. That hurts a lot. Gets the cancel on the 4th base. He's going to back it up. MaNa has so much money to spend. If he can just spend that money, he's going to get himself into a good little position to play on from. Let's see if he can get that money spent, because I think Reynor really has run out of steam. That Disruptor shot really ended that last attack, and with that last attack ending, there's just not really the power for Reynor to kind of keep going again and again. He's now starting to hive. I thought that was something he wanted to go for much longer ago. He decided not to. And now we realizing that was probably the wrong choice.
Yeah, it's kind of a game of too late hatchery or lair tech, and then too late hive tech, perhaps. Where he did a queen walk, so he delayed his lair. Then he couldn't really deal with the air. And he lost his lair and did a Hydra attempt and bust. That didn't work, and now he wishes he had a hive. He doesn't, and MaNa was able to retain all of his carriers. He might have lost some Tempest, lost some Disruptors, but the carrier count has not just grown, but the Interceptors have actually finally gotten maxed out alongside some more Disruptors, and MaNa takes down a base and might even look for the fight. Depending on the Disruptor shoot. Are they going to shoot? There we go. Oh my god, Focus Fire is good. And the next one should go down as well. Carrier is the first thing in Focus Fire. Actually, it's Disruptor still not going to get a shot despite living for so long. Finally, it gets taken down as well. And now the question is, can the Hydras tackle the rest of the carriers, the rest of the Interceptors? It might not be the case. +2 against +2. Such few units involved here because the carriers are all out of juice. They're all out of Interceptors, and MaNa is going to pull back. But Reynor has been very injured.
Yeah, Reynor has to just chase these down, because the moment the Interceptor count gets back up is the moment he can't fight this anymore. He's only got anything left because the Interceptor count fell down so low. And unfortunately, we're getting to a point now where obviously MaNa finds those carriers getting away, and he just has to rebuild. And just anything Reynor builds now just feels lacking compared to what MaNa can get up to. Really cool PvZ, right? And MaNa definitely know when his moments to attack one. I think that's something we emphasized during the pre-show. Just, hey, like, this is something that MaNa needs to do. He needs to know when his strengths are. You know, he needs to know when he's strong. He needs to be able to hit those timings. And he absolutely has. Like, he did not delay at all once this carry count got up. He went in forward. He knew those Hydras weren't going to cut it. He did not give Reynor the chance to get to high, Vipers or anything else that might just help him out further. Went, attacked, took down a base, and obviously Reynor just somewhat dead in the water here now that those carrier Interceptors are back. It's time for another round of MaNa killing off everything that Reynor owns.
One Viper, a Microbial Shroud as well. That's nice. That's actually very
really
nice.
Good. Until the Disruptor goes into the middle of it.
Well, that did happen. The Disruptor got pulled, but then it didn't get killed, and then it came back for some serious vengeance. The Microbial Shroud, I think that is what ultimately saved Reynor's life. Might not save the day, overall, because MaNa's got this lead, but Reynor lives.
Oh no, absolutely. The Microbial Shroud just gave you that little bit of extra oomph. Definitely making a bit of a difference here. So, and we go again. Just gonna fight this time. The problem is there's only one Infestor, right? So it's not like you have more lined up. Okay, he just got the energy back for another round. They'll kill off the Vipers here. The Interceptors are going to go down towards the drones. The Hydras now start a chase. But, I mean, impressive hold from Reynor. But even Reynor says my holds just aren't going to be good enough. I just can't possibly keep doing this. Types out GG, and that is going to be a 1-1 series. We get to go to game 3 for the first time today.
Yeah, those previous series were no fluke. MaNa definitely has got somewhat of Reynor's number. Now, enough to take the series again, that just kind of comes down to his previous history actually pertinent to Reynor when he comes into DreamHack. It's about to be tested in game 3. If MaNa wins, you're just going to start talking about MaNa being the anti-Reynor, kind of like how Gung Fu was the anti-Clem last season or something, right? And I do think it's possible, but that was a very tricky game, you know? I understand all the decisions Reynor made, but every time he made one, it felt like hindsight told him, oh, maybe you shouldn't have. The Queen Walk maybe actually wasn't the best. Then he loses the lair, which granted was just like a perfect timing from MaNa. That was exactly what he should have grabbed, so fair is fair. But then he decides, okay, maybe I won't try to do that. I'm just going to try and bust you. And that also didn't work, although it looked a bit promising. So MaNa, it was a tricky game. I want to give props to MaNa. But does he get a game like that again? We're going on a Jagannata, and I'm going to say no, he doesn't. Definitely not that Tempest build.
I think Jagannata is a bit more straight up, right? But, I mean, honestly, MaNa playing his double Stargate Void style can be so, like, sometimes that's why I feel like he's at his best. And game 3, Jagannata, it's the map that plays for it, right? And surely we see it. I know we just saw double Stargate Tempest, but, like, obviously this time really mean just, like, build Void Rays from the start and just stick on Void Rays. We'll see what we end up with. We're going in game in just a few moments' time. What do you think, ZG? You think Reynor still got this? You think MaNa can pull it off?
I think MaNa can pull it off. And you know why? Because if our prediction's wrong, all of our predictions are wrong. And no one gets ahead in the talent game. So you know what? I'm actually cheering for MaNa. Let's go. Let's do it.
I'm actually with you. I like it.
I don't have to care about the predictions.
It's all about the predictions. All about that. Yeah, betting against ourselves to bet against everyone else, basically.
Yes, that's how that works out. Seriously, I do think that MaNa has a chance here, but it's gonna have to be something other than the build we saw last game. In the top right, he is the red Zerg for Team Clash, Reynor.
In the bottom left, our blue Protoss from Team Liquid is MaNa.
What do you like to see on Jagannata in this matchup?
I genuinely just like to see MaNa go double Stargate Void and Reynor play like a later game. I'd like to see the later game just because I think that's more fun. I think it's more likely we see Reynor try and Queen Walk this time, maybe more successfully. So yeah, just something along those lines. I would say.
I think that's a solid prediction, honestly. MaNa to Stargate against Reynor's more mid-game, with a lair, with an upgrade, perhaps even Queen Walk. Could be very possible. It's incredibly likely on this map. And MaNa, I guess we are looking more so to set the tone. What's that first technology building going to be? A big difference here, besides the map, Reynor isn't sending out that drone. Whatever his plan was last game, it actually did not end up scouting everything. It didn't really interrupt MaNa's plan so much.
It definitely felt like it was meant to do more, right? But I mean, yeah. In the end, like you say, maybe MaNa's plan wasn't to play the Stargate, but then he still ended up playing the Stargate, right? So, then he's forced into it and it worked.
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible he was going to go like, Twilight Council and, there's a drone, shoot. Or he was going to open up with, oracles instead of Void Rays, vice versa, whatever. And was like, it's not going to work.
I don't mind the Stargate and the Void. I feel like the build he did overall was just fine, though. Like, it's not like it's a build that's necessarily bad. We talk about Beckett and it's like, actually, short rush distance, maybe it keeps you safe. And in this case, going for the double Stargate Tempest kept him very safe against exactly what Reynor came out with, so kind of worked.
I think it did. I don't think that drone was I don't know if the drone could ever really impact the game so much, so I don't want to focus too much on it, but I feel like it would have been a lot more disruptive if it had been a Twilight Council and you kind of just go, whoops, that's a bit awkward. All right, let's just kind of carry through. Whereas Stargate is really all-encompassing. Like, it can be aggressive, it can be defensive, it can be just for scouting, it can go into something a little later that's still a surprise, like a quick follow-up with the Resident Glaives. It's got everything going for it. So as long as you do deny any scouting, eventually, you're good to go. And speaking of scouting, the Adept's going to get in here, get a drone. Wow, MaNa definitely going to win game 3 now.
Beautiful play. He's just so good. Oh, yeah, we get to kind of chill out a little bit, don't we? As we just wait for our Stargate play to get going and everything to get rolling here. We do have a little Spore Pro build there, and drones in some trouble. A couple of drones going down. These Lings are going to go down too, so these Adepts may get the Shades. Took a little while to get rid of that one last Ling, which I thought was just going to drop that moment sooner. Yeah, it gets to recall out of here, so he keeps the Adepts alive, so definitely a bonus on top of all the rest there.
Nice start from MaNa. Reynor is going to dart across the map and see what's going on, or at least try and, snipe a probe going over to make a third Nexus. Will eventually be MaNa's plan. He's not following this up swiftly, if anything, aside from just a typical second gateway. Oh, the weak Adept on the front, and the probe. Nice grabs.
That's unfortunate after we were just hyped about those Adepts getting out and everything. It's like, actually,
Revenge was had.
Revenge was had. Not much going on, huh?
Yeah, I actually saw a fake Void Ray.
Okay. It's kind of cool.
Reynor believe it, though? I think he would have seen it start. So, I don't know. Reynor, he's going to be under the wrong impression. He's thinking there's a Stargate, a second one, just a little bit further behind, because there's not. Twilight Council on the floor.
This Queen's going to show up and nearly get that Oracle. So yeah, we just go into that kind of, I always like to call it like the triple, Protoss build. Like all of a sudden you get in Forge, Twilight, and Robo. It's just a very standard follow-up off of a Stargate. You need all of those structures eventually, and this is now you getting into them, so yeah, it feels very standard across the board.
And Baneling out for Reynor. Classic. I feel like he, more than anyone, I was just always impressed with the way, because he's a Ling Master, right? Add some Banelings onto it, and suddenly you have one of the, the world's best Zerg. Charge is going to be the tech of choice. We have been seeing a lot of Blink, not just from today, but also other outside of DreamHack PVZs. But no, back to just right into that Charge. You know what Charge does? It runs those Zealots right into those Banelings for you. So,
it does.
He's like, okay, well, if you don't have Banelings prepared, then all's fair. And of course, if you got Archons, it is still a solid composition. But I saw that War Prism coming out too, and I was like, well, this doesn't really time out to anything, does it? Where is that War Prism going to go? What is it going to do? Is it going to wait for the Archons, I guess?
Yeah.
I think it is.
That or you just warp in Zealots, and maybe you could warp in Zealots now, send those Zealots forward, or take the Zealots to the main with Charge finishing.
Yeah. Either way, he's got to wait, though, which is why I was like, is this going to be a real attack?
Yeah, there's nothing ready to go with the Prism, that's for sure. Oracle trying to come in again, keeping those Revelations up, wants to scout as much as possible. As Reynor gets aggressive with some Lings across the map, they'll find a probe, they'll check the third base, just try and see what's there. Sees not much of anything, so that should be a bit of an indicator that maybe there's some aggression happening. He actually finds it to the right side, sees those Archons morphing, sees the Zealots. Want to scout from Reynor a little bit ahead of time, you can start prepping just those few seconds earlier.
So the Archon Zealot micro is going to become, key here, because the composition can work out very well against someone only on Ling Baneling. But oh my god, that's so many queens. 10 queens all together. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
That's probably going to help.
They just swooped in because they're the only thing that could defend right there. We just go full on into the main. I don't know if I like going fully into the main because it's going to be difficult to retreat out of here. Now all these Zealots are just complete goners. That felt like a cool idea that just Reynor was on top of like 10 seconds earlier than MaNa ever thought he would be. That was, but why wouldn't he be, right? Like it's such an easy run through there. Felt like just MaNa had an idea that just didn't pan out at all.
It was awkward in a bunch of different regards. The actual engagement was awkward. The attempted the force on doing something was awkward, and the build itself was awkwardly timed. Because not only is it this Archon Zealot combo punch that follows up a Stargate sometimes, or can be a build sometimes. This time, it followed up a Stargate, and it was just straight up later. The Warp Prism was not well timed. The charge and Archons weren't well timed. So I'm actually going to chalk this up a little bit to the build order being off, because maybe if that does hit with the Warp Prism, imagine if that could hit with the Warp Prism. I mean, that is actually just like, ooh, I think Reynor's in a lot of trouble, but didn't really feel that intimidating. And now MaNa, well, just happy, I guess, doing a fairly late Archon drop, which doesn't really control very much.
Yeah. I mean, Archon drops are not great at the best of times nowadays, right? So it's like, yeah, a late Archon drop doesn't get me excited for MaNa's position in this game. There's a lot of units just positioned out to their right side. Gonna try and take that fourth base bottom corner. Reynor's about to finish up the Spire. You think he's okay just to go straight into Mutas here? He should be fine, right? As Ling's already set up some good counterattacks. These units do not do anything, and those roaches are in plenty numbers still to deal with the Archon. So, yeah, I think definitely looks as though Reynor can probably get away with it. He's going to start up some extra roaches right now. Maybe a little bit afraid of these attacks continuing because he has to deal with the attack on the top side too. Now that recalls, and he deals with the attack on the right. Nice stasis. He should be free just to make those mutas if that's what he really wanted.
I think so, yeah. There was a little bit of a blip there. There was like, oh, okay, that's actually a lot more Archons than you would have expected. Especially because Reynor didn't know about the fourth base. The game was not going to an all-in, but he's like, oh, that's a lot of Archons. Take it seriously. Pushes it back on both sides, and then it gets to go into his mutas. So maybe better late than never. I don't think that actually is the case, because the Spire was scouted. Maybe the 5 mutas are totally useless, but still wants to go for a few. And then build up that Baneling Roach. He's going for more, just, I mean, I guess enough, right? Like 6 mutas is kind of that nice number. In this case, 5 to actually kill some probes or take out a Warp Prism. Might be the best use of the mutas they'll ever have.
Yep, no, absolutely. Just going to go diving straight in forward as the Zealots just going to try and make themselves annoying. I mean, that Infestation Pin might go down in the back, which is going to be a nice delay. Especially if Reynor doesn't realize it, right? It's the sort of thing that could maybe go amiss in a bit of chaos. It does not. Puts it back down straight away there, so very well aware of what's going on. And really, we just move through.
Despite I'm still gonna say it was an awkward little Archon charge attack there. I really don't mind how this game is played out. MaNa is going, well, that portal's off in nowhere. But MaNa was able to retain all of his Archons, or a lot of them in anyways, because he recalled them. Yeah, every single one was kept alive. 29 Zealots have gone down, and that's a lot of kills. But all the Archons stayed alive. He's got stormed to the 4 bases. He's building up his immortal count on double robo. And his supply really is in an okay position for this particular matchup, especially because he's got 9 cotton balls.
It is a lot, and they can actually do surprisingly well if they can get like fully involved in a fight. Well, we'll see a little bit of room by bottom right as the mutas try and dive the main. They don't get to do too much. Extra Stargate and a Fleet Beacon coming through. As MaNa definitely has plans on where he wants to take this. Definitely feels like late game is his way forward in this, which I don't disagree with. You know, he's definitely put himself in a position to perhaps get there. I don't think Reynor can necessarily end the game before then, not with Storms and stuff. Storms and Archons, essentially. These Vane's going to try and roll through for damage. Gets the Warp in by killing the Pylon. 8 workers. Cannon just stops the last Baneling connected with that +2 melee. The insta-kills. It was actually kind of scary there.
Could have easily been the entire probe line. But a good response, or good enough response from MaNa, who continues to build up very expensive, very high technology units. Again, the Archon's still alive, Storm's still ready to go, and now Carriers, and making sure to get that +1 fire on it too. Reynor's Hive's finishing up, and he's got 2-1 as well. He could try and do a bit of a bust on like a 1 base, maybe stop a 5th, right? But then he does really have to worry about that late game, which Baneling Roach does not shoot up. So we're going to have to talk about maybe going into those Corruptors. He does have a 2nd Spire on the way now. And I think the Spine Crawlers coming down show that he is well aware this game will not end in the mid-game. He's going to late game.
Yep. Yeah, he's happy to accept that as well. I mean, to shut down that Prism, love the use of them, right? Is definitely a useful way to put a few meters into play and just remove some of the most annoying things that Protoss can do, right? Prisms in your bases can be extremely frustrating in those scenarios, so nice to just shut that down, get rid of it. Attack down here wants to try and keep MaNa on just the 4 base, which is generally would be like really good, right? If you can keep that from happening. Bane's in this base at the same time, and there's something happening bottom right. That's the Mutalisks, which are going to be in, not really doing much, to be fair. But overall, 17 workers go down. You trade out the mutas you don't really need or want anymore, and you start a rebuild on Corruptors and go into a Greater Spice. We're going to see the introduction of Broodlords soon.
I guess now it's up to the Roaches to go ahead and sacrifice themselves. They are not useful supply anymore. So that's what we're going to see here. Take out what they can. I mean, actually just straight up suiciding them might be a little much, but they're finding a way to go ahead and kill themselves, I guess, with honor. Do something, buy some time, grab an Archon, and then Reynor will fill with Corruptor Broodlord. Very much looks like the intention.
Yep, absolutely. As these Lings come in, surround a pylon, surround a Nexus. That's going to go down. Roaches get there, and I mean, again, keeping MaNa on 4 bases really is, I think, one of the big keys here for Reynor, because it's just going to remove so much of MaNa's ability to rebuild and remax. And he's doing such a great job of it, to be fair. Corruptors coming through just about in time to help against these carriers. Let's see if it turns out to be enough, though, because it's still going to be a bit of a scary moment or so.
The scariest moment, I would say, for Reynor. Some static defense is going to help. The Queen count's going to help with a ton of transfuse energy as well. But the Corruptors aren't all quite here. They do go sharking around for that Warp Prism, seen by a Creep Tumor, so they take the reinforcements out of the equation, but the Storms hitting the conga line of Banelings is very effective. Was there a second Warp Prism? Is that what I'm seeing? It didn't get the Warp in either, but I guess it was another threat. The Corruptors forced to take that down before even trying to handle the carriers, which is still protected by Archons. No longer any Storms. MaNa starting to run out of steam a little bit. Without the Warp Prism, I don't think he can actually stay here. And yeah, that is going to be, I think, a pullback. I mean, you're looking at the Zerg army. You're seeing a lot of Corruptors. You know the Archons will do well against them. He's going to continue on.
Yeah, a couple of Immortals arrive. He's still got some Storms around the back of those High Templar just lurking, but not finding the chance to drop any of those just yet. Reynor's rebuilding so quickly, though, and again, MaNa is at a stage of this game where, again, 4 bases just doesn't necessarily cut it all this way through. He needs to keep this army alive, because he definitely can't afford to replace all of it. Unfortunately, he's going to be forced into the fight. There's no way out, and now the reinforcements of Reynor are really going to show their power and just show how many of them there are in comparison to what, MaNa's been adding in. There's a fresh set of Archons, but they just arrived too late. So now they're kind of on their own on the ground. Those carriers have been dropping. GG and very well played, says MaNa. And I actually have to say I agree, because this wasn't like a straight up simple